Well, Hudson Kenner has a 20-point advantage in the Superstock 1000 Championship in association with Black Horse, riding bike number 3, the Homer Racing Ionic Balance Link Cell Kawasaki. It's looked after by himself and his 68-year-old Pop. And apparently he's a little bit scruffy underneath the fairing, but it works extremely well. It's brought him 3 victories, including the one before last at Donington Park. And the South African, who narrowly lost out, remember, against Glenn Richards in the British Supersport Championship a few years ago, is on the brink of achieving his first full-on national title in these dodgy conditions. He's starting from the 4th row of the grid with... as you can see, the standing water is pretty dense. There's a lot of spray around. We've just got to hope that these guys take it very, very steadily. Can we ask that of them during the course of the opening few laps? Because it really is going to be tiptoeing around the place. We've already seen Josh Brooks go down right there, going into Graham Hill Bend right at the end of morning warm-up just a few minutes ago for the Superbike class. The championship standings look rather like this. Hudson Kenner, after his recent successes, combined with a downturn in Adam Jenkinson's fortunes, means that he's stolen the advantage from the SMT Kawasaki. The Cheshireman is now 20 points adrift of Kenner. Philip Backlund, who secured his first victory ever in the class in the last round at Silverstone. The Swede is now in 3rd place in the championship on 125 points. He's ahead of his teammate at ILR Kawasaki, Victor Cox. And then Lee Jackson on the build-based BMW is in 5th place, ahead of Tommy Aquino. Aquino has never ridden in the rain before, never even seen it. And he's trembling, or will be, on the start line. Tristan Palmer on the Rapido Sport Racing Ducati is in 7th place. He's had a couple of victories. So too, of course, Tommy Aquino, that dramatic victory at Cadwell Park. Joe Burns is in 8th place. Dan Johnson, who's qualified on the front row, is 9th. Peter Ward is in 10th place. 11th place for Steve Brogan, ahead of David Johnson and Luke Quigley. Jimmy Storer from Perth, Josh Day, Josh Wainwright, who impressed at Silverstone, Marshall Neal, James East, Lee Johnston, and in 20th place and making his return to the campaign here today, John McGuinness. The starting grid, though, looks slightly unusual, because Ashley Beach, who you never saw in that top 20, is actually lying in 25th place. He's riding the Jones Dorling Racing Kawasaki. He's put it on pole position ahead of the JD Racing's former rider, Danny Johnson, with Adam Jenkinson putting himself in a good position on the front row of the grid. Lee Jackson heads up row 2 ahead of Tristan Palmer and Victor Cox. The 3rd row, James East looking strong again on the IDAC Kawasaki, ahead of Philip Backlund, and a good outing for Johnny Blackshaw from Warrington on the Accident Advice Solicitors Kawasaki. And then Hudson Kenner, the man with the championship almost in his pocket, ahead of Josh Elliott and Jonathan Lodge. There's Adam Jenkinson. Things were going so well until we discovered they'd got a twisted frame on that Kawasaki, and he wasn't handling too well, and he's had a couple of really tough rounds. Now he needs a good one. This is the final race of the season, the Pirelli National Superstock 1000 in association with Black Horse. Oh, and a collision there between the Four Angels bike of Dan Johnson and a rushing Adam Jenkinson, who looked initially to have got the drag off the start, but gets nudged back into 2nd place by the determined Berkshire lad.
Massive crash.
And we've got fallers in the background as we went down into Paddock Hill Bend. I was hoping they'd take it easy, but that doesn't look very comfortable, and I've got a feeling that the riders might be hauled back. It's almost James Hayden. It must be horrible being out there in the mid-pack in the spray. It's got to be in conditions like this.
Oh, look, someone else got bobbed out the seat there. Yeah, no, it is difficult on these opening laps. You know, you are getting a feel for it. Great start from Dan Johnson there.
And Hudson Kenner in 5th place.
Yeah, and he knows what he's got to do. Adam Jenkinson as well, just behind. Remember, it is the big battle for the championship lead. Hudson Kenner has that 20-point lead over Jenkinson, and it's going to be fascinating. Hudson Kenner, you can see in 5th spot. But,
well, Kenner's done himself such a power of good making a start like that from row 4. Dan Johnson, now riding for Four Angels Racing, though, had that coming together off the start line with Adam Jenkinson, and he came out the stronger. So the Berkshireman from Reading, could it be James Hayden's mate, headed for his first ever victory in this class? Well, I know that Hayden's we might get a bit of bias in this commentary, folks.
Well, no, certainly not. But you know, he's 9th in the championship, and yeah, this would be by far his best ride. A long way to go yet. Lap 1 of 14, and you know, in difficult conditions as well. But the sun's come out and it stopped raining. You can see the blue skies there. We've got a rainbow of parts of the circuit, and he's doing a great job there on lap 1.
Oof. Across the line, completing the first of 14 laps then, and Four Angels Racing. Dan Johnson leads the way from Adam Jenkinson. Tristan Palmer's third on the Ducati.
And you can see Hudson Kenner just slipping up the inside there of Jackson. So Hudson Kenner gave a little wave there, number 3. That is our championship leader, the man we're looking at on the red and white and black Kawasaki there. So at the end of the day, at the moment, that would be enough to give him the championship if he finished fourth. Little slider. This is the slippiest part of the track as well. This left-hander is especially dodgy, so you've really got to watch it there. Oh, someone down on that left-hander, just as I said. Is that Cox? No.
Well prophesied. It could be Victor Cox on the Ian Locker Racing Kawasaki, but anyway, it's a tall lad on a Kawasaki trudging off. Incidentally, Ashley Beach off pole position had a fairly wretched start on the Jules Dorling racing bike, and he's slipped back to 9th place.
Jenkinson's got past Johnson.
Jenkinson takes the lead. It's what he needs to do. He needs clear track, and he needs to try and get to the front and stay there. But look at Tristan Palmer. Tristan Palmer really pushing on the Respido Sport Racing Ducati there in 3rd place as they plunge downhill through the great valley of Dingle and up towards Sheen Curve.
Yeah, you can see definitely Tristan Palmer on the Panigale in 3rd.
Johnson comes back at Jenkinson as they go into Stirling's.
Oh, a nice move there by Johnson. They're going to square it off, and behind them we've still got Hudson Kenner. Then we got Jackson Backlund. 3 abreast here, and oh, that's tight into clearways. Got to be very careful here as you get on the power. The rear wants to spin up. You know, they've got 200 brake horsepower, these. They're quick motorcycles. And look at Hudson Kenner. That's the quickest lap of the race there. Hudson Kenner, 1:42.1. So, you know, he was 1.7 seconds quicker on that lap than the leader, Daniel Johnson. So that was a really good lap. Johnson on the back brake there. And look at Tristan Palmer up into 2nd. Hudson Kenner right on them now in 4th.
Hudson Kenner is really doing the right thing here, and for Adam Jenkinson it's a struggle in the spray. He's now been squeezed back from the lead within less than a lap to 3rd place, with the championship leader and the man he's got to beat by over 20 points now right in his wake in 3rd place. Dan Johnson still looking at the strong at the front on what is virtually the Gulf Oils coloured Angels racing bike. Oh, and there we go.
That was Victor Cox.
Victor Cox 3rd in the championship last year, and of course having a good run in the championship late in the season, running 4th. Oh,
wow! Did you? God, wow! That was a massive moment. He went. That was Mercer. He nearly did a 360. That was dodgy stuff there. But look, Tristan Palmer out in front. He looks really hungry for this Tristan Palmer. He's already had a couple of wins so far this year, and looks very strong. 2 wins and a 3rd, best results of the year, and he's looking good here at the moment.
So the Panigale drumming its way through Sheen Curve now, and just beginning to stretch a lead slightly. Perhaps a more comfortable machine to ride in these conditions. He certainly looks, Tristan certainly looks comfortable on the Ducati right now. He leads the way on the 3rd of 14 laps, number 33. The beautiful Ducati Panigale, and then that very equally lovely orange and pale blue Angels Racing Kawasaki with Adam Jenkinson trying to line up a pass on Dan Johnson as they come down the straight. He's got Hudson Kenner hovering behind him. The first 4 nailed together. Lee Jackson in 5th. Philip Backlund running 6th. Josh Day in 7th. James East on the IDAC Kawasaki is 8th. We've got Robbie Brown in 9th place. Johnny Blackshaw 10th. Ashley Beach off pole position now back to 15th place. And obviously not comfortable in this thick spray in the mid-pack. Who can blame him for that?
Yeah, this 6 though, this breakaway 6 doing a good job. And on the bow, that was Backlund there on the black Kawasaki. 3rd in the championship, 6th in the race. Big slide on that left-hander again at Graham Hill. So tricky there. We've seen so many crashes there this weekend.
Philip Backlund's gained a bit of a following amongst the campsite fans here at Brands Hatch during the course of the year, and he likes to go out there and you know, just enjoy sitting back and having a bit of a barbecue with them. So we can't believe how many people come to British Superbike rounds and camp out. And
he just slipped up the inside of Lee Jackson there, and back of your picture as you spoke of that Backlund. So he's on the black and green Kawasaki that's just going to be coming into the picture. But back at the front, it is Palmer. Johnson, oh, look at Johnson going up the inside of Dingle. Yes, he does. difficult move to do there, just such a narrow line, but a nice move there from Johnson. Palmer and Jenkinson absolutely queuing up behind him.
Does Dan Johnson particularly like Brands Hatch? This is the most spirited riding we've seen from him, James.
Yeah, he did a lot of his early racing here at Brands, and you know, he's definitely, you know, he's been thereabouts. Obviously, he is in the top 10 in the championship, but as you say, this is the first time we've seen him do this, and this is great to see.
Adam Jenkinson cut ruthlessly underneath Tristan Palmer, got great drive out of Clark Curve there onto the straight. I'm impressed with the way that Hudson Kennedy seems to be hovering behind these three guys, not getting too close to them and just keeping an eye on where Jenkinson is.
Yeah, and that's
Josh Day, fastest lap. He's down in 7th place.
Yeah, he is. He's got a bit of work to do. What's he did? 141.2. So he's a 3/10 quicker than the guys at the front and the back of the picture. We'll keep an eye on him in 7th. Another popped out seat. Someone went really wide there as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So that was Jackson. Jackson had a moment in going in at the bottom of the hill. It was out of picture, but we're now down to 5 because he ran off the track.
Number 11, Adam Jenkinson, he knows that nothing less really will do than victory in this race if he's to stand any slim chance of winning the championship. He once again squeezes courageously underneath as they go down Pilgrim's Drop and climb up through Hawthorne Bend onto the Minter Straight.
Yeah, and it's Adam Jenkinson, who looked like he was away with this championship, didn't he, early on, Jack? And then he had a real sort of dip in form. I know they had a few problems, and but you know, this is exactly what he's got to do. He had to come out in this race and really go for that win to put the pressure back on Hudson Kenner. But Hudson Kenner 4th at the moment. You know, he would still win the championship if it was stopped at the moment. And you know, the difference, he's got 20-point lead. You know, obviously at the moment he would lose, what did he lose? 12 points. So he'd still win that championship by 8 points.
Jenkinson, the Cheshire landscape gardener, who was a British mini moto champion way back in 2002 and 2003, 10 years ago. Lord, I wonder if he was as big as that then. And meanwhile, you can see just in the background there that Philip Backlund is pressing Kenner. Backlund running 5th, Josh Day crossing the line 6th. Lee Jackson is there still in 7th.
Now, Adam Jenkinson, the first
Here's Backlund, sorry.
Yeah,
there he goes, just slides underneath Hudson Kenner. Kenner's not resisting. He knows what he needs to do. He knows the points lead he's got. He's comfortable with having his dad and his mum around, and his dad working on his engines and things like they used to be when he was a youngster. But the 32-year-old South African just riding steadily. Right now, that's how things look, James. 6 points to the good if they finished in these positions. Yeah,
I mean, obviously he's Backlund's just got past him, but that is the point. That's all he needs to do. And actually, he's got a safe 5th at the moment. You know, he's got a gap of 1.8 seconds back to the guys behind him. So he doesn't need to do any more than that. And we've got...
Is that coming out of Paddock?
No, it's out of Druids.
Oh, it's out of Druids, okay. And someone else running off track. That's the number 43 machine of James Rispoli from the USA on a team traction control Suzuki. Lost his traction control.
But you can't stress how slippy these conditions are. What a difficult condition to go and win a championship in. This would be Hudson Kenner's first ever British championship, and you know, he couldn't be in a tough condition, but he's got to watch out a little bit, because behind him you can actually see now that that Day's starting just to pull in a little bit. And so Day, the man, he's been the fastest man on the track for a few laps, and he's just sort of coming in. So Hudson Kenner's got to, can't let these guys go, but at the same time you can understand him just trying to stay out of trouble, be smooth, be neat, and count down these laps.
So Josh Day, 25-year-old from Swindon, riding the BYs at Kawasaki. He is the fastest man on track at the moment. Jenkinson's just, now Robbie Brown's just gone fastest, down in 8th place. Amazing how things change as conditions just develop. There is Philip Backlund closing on Tristan Palmer. Backlund sniffing the possibility of another podium here at Brands Hatch, because we're not yet quite at half race distance on the 7th of 14 laps.
Yeah, and Jenkinson and Johnson are just broken a little bit there from Palmer. It's just starting to stretch the pack. This is all to do with Jenkinson, who's found some real pace, and he's pulling it. That's what's stretching the pack at the moment. You can see Tristan Palmer a little bit late going in there. Johnson's trying to go with him and doing a good job. It just looks like Palmer's just dropping off a fraction there on the Ducati.
So the 29-year-old, number 11 on the SMT Kawasaki, Adam Jenkinson. Jenko leads the way here in a race he simply has to win. He's on the 7th of 14 laps, but Dan Johnson is not letting him get away at all. That's Dan Johnson got one of those rather curious-looking yellow visors on.
Yeah, it's a high-visibility visor, and Dan Johnson, the reason I got to know Dan Johnson, one of a real good friend of mine, a guy called Mark Barkaway, is his sort of chief mechanic. And yeah, that's how we got to sort of know Dan, and so Mark will be chomping at the bit in pit lane here. So best of luck to all these guys, because he's doing a great job at the moment, and yeah, just like, you know, fantastic job to be keeping with Jenkinson in a really strong second spot.
When you check back down the field, you look at 10th place Steve Brogan, Johnny Blackshaw in 11th, Josh Wainwright 12th, ahead of Joe Burns, John McGuinness, Tommy Aquino in the points in his first ever race in the rain, ahead of pole setter Ashley Beach. It's a strong field right the way through.
Very strong field, and just momentarily we should just mention Ashley Beach. I know he's only in 16th, but Ashley Beach did that brilliant job to put it on pole position, and you know, it's a shame he couldn't have. Obviously it was always going to be a tough call for the race, but you know, not having a great start, we didn't really have much chance to talk about him, did we? So well done for your pole.
His last pole position was in his 125 British Championship days back in 2009. That was Backlund, got well and truly sat up coming out of Graham Hill Bend.
And again, I mean, it's just so often we're seeing that. It is such a glassy part of the circuit, and you know, the guys, you've seen them a lot of the time losing the rear there. I think that Palmer is just starting to maybe... Now watch the fourth bike in your picture, the green and black Kawasaki, watch his rear. And
I like your sound effect, James. Is that the sort of noise you make to yourself when it happens to you on the bike?
Oh, nice
spirited move by Johnson as he goes along the Minter Straight and downhill into Westfield.
Yeah, it's a nice move there, and he's got a little bit of clear track. It's always nice as well when you're racing in these sort of conditions and you're getting the spray off everyone. When you get back out in front again, it's like, you know, you just turn your head to a bit, get rid of all the rubbish off your visor and have a clear track. It's kind of refreshing. It kind of rejuvenates you.
So Dan Johnson back at front for Four Angels Racing. Remember, they had a distant victory at Thruxton with David Johnson, the other Johnson, the Australian Johnson. Ooh, a big moment though for Dan as he came out of Clark Curve there. Gave Adam a thought of going up the inside, but Dan keeps the power pinned.
He does. He was really late on the brakes, couldn't quite get back to the apron. Just got to be slightly careful now. A couple of moments, those last couple of corners, and just got to watch it. It's a very funny condition now, because it's not that you can see that it's starting to dry up in a few places. Bike 3's got an issue we're just hearing. That's Hudson Kenner.
Hudson Kenner. What? Hudson Kenner has... What's the problem here? Hudson Kenner has...
Smoke. What would...
South African Hudson Kenner, 20-point lead in the National Superstock 1000 Championship. He's in 5th place at the moment.
Okay.
And we're getting reports that there's a... Well,
he's dropping back. He's dropping back.
There's number 2, Josh Day has blasted past him into 5th place. Kenner going backwards. We're on the 8th lap. We just turned half distance. Sorry, the 9th lap. We just passed half distance. There's Hudson Kenner. The Grub, the 32-year-old South African who's been racing for many years on our shores. So
we're just having a little look just to assess this. We'd heard that there was maybe smoke coming out the back of his bike, but it's so hard to see at the moment with all the steam. So we'll have to all the steam and spray. Look at the dry line just cutting up in a few places there. Okay.
The former junior South African motocross champion there, who has finished 3rd in this championship back in 2007, and then just lost out in British Supersport in 2008 on the Raceways Yamaha.
So there's Hudson Kenner, just gone through our picture. There he
Hudson
is.
Kenner losing, he's shedding places now, because here comes Robbie Brown, the reigning or the former Ducati 848 Tri-Option Challenge champion, pressing him. So that means that Kenner would drop to 7th place, but that's still good for 9 points. Yeah. That's no problem for him. The only thing that could make a serious difference is if he falls back further and if Jenkinson can win this race. And at the moment, Jenko has a 0.142 of a second, the narrowest of advantages over Dan Johnson. Well, another place gone then. He moves back to 7th.
Yeah, so that means 4 points. Yeah, so it means there'd be a difference, wouldn't there, of
If he were to finish in 11th place, he'd still be victorious in the championship. So at the moment, as it stands, Hudson Kenner has that advantage of 4 points over Adam Jenkinson, who has just moved back to the front. If Jenkinson finishes 2nd, of course, then the championship points are tied. So that gets the possibilities become more and more intriguing. But the race is drawing on. We're on to the 10th lap of 14. Just 4 laps to go after this one. 4.5 laps to go for this man, Hudson Kenner.
But if he was second and it was tied, Jack, then Hudson would win on more wins. He's had 3 wins compared to Jenkinson, who's had 2. So there is Hudson Kenner, and he's in 7th spot at the moment, and he's got behind him. If you have a look at that, it looks like Jackson, who's just coming in, he's closing in on him as well. He's having a big look there. Obviously, just that. Oh, it's a horrible position to be in, but...
So, James, do you suspect he's nursing the bike? He knows there's perhaps a little bit of a problem, and he's just nursing the bike round, knowing that he can afford to lose 1 or 2 places.
Well, what we were hearing, he was waving at his pit crew, and, you know, he was waving at his pit crew at the start-finish straight, so obviously he does have a concern, but at the end of the day, he's got what he's got. He's got 3 laps to try and keep it together, and you can see there, Brown there just...
Robbie Brown set the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. He suddenly picked up some real pace. So number 34, the last year's Ducati champion, the Ducati Manchester DMC Racing Panigale, Robbie Brown is pushing through there past Josh Day. But you notice that Adam Jenkinson only just has the lead at the moment, ahead of Dan Johnson and a rejuvenated Tristan Palmer. There's the cautious number 3. That is the championship leader on the 11th of 14 laps. The South African, who speaks with the pace of a machine gun. You can scarcely understand him at times.
Yeah, you know what, though? He can actually fall down to 10th spot, and 10th spot is still another 13, 14 seconds back on him in Brogy. So
yes,
at the end of the day, he can just do what he's doing. Nurse it back, roll it round, forget about the guys in front, just keep it down there, all conditions, let these guys race, concentrate on his own thing. So Hudson Kenner is actually really using his head here.
There's number 11, Adam Jenkinson, challenging for that championship, knowing he needs the 25 points. And there doesn't look to be a lot wrong at the moment with the pace that this man, Hudson Kenner, is setting. His last lap was 1:41.4, which is only about 1.2 seconds slower than the leaders. Jenkinson trying to pull a bit of a gap now on the 2nd and 3rd place men, Johnson and Palmer. Storming across the line. Jenkinson still leads it. Johnson in 2nd place. Tristan Palmer running 3rd on the Ducati. Drying conditions now, James. Is it making any difference? Look, you can see that there are darker patches of drier track showing through.
Yeah, there are some dry lines just starting to cut through, but it's still very, very wet. You still see sprays, you still see lines, it's slippy. And this sort of condition in between going wet to dry is one of the trickiest and slippiest of the lot. But listen, also, let's keep an eye on Brown, all right? He's in 5th spot. He's the first man in the 38. He lapped nearly 2 seconds quicker than the leaders on that last lap, and he is 3.3 seconds behind. He was 5.2 on the last lap, so let's keep an eye on him, because if he keeps up on that pace, he would catch them on the last lap. So we'll keep an eye on Brown, which is his best ride by far there in 5th spot.
The Ducati Panigale got great drive coming up the hill out of Surtees, and in the background you can see Brown. Brown could have, the lad from the Black Country could have his eye on a victory here. That's incredible. 1:38.6 was his last lap against that 1:40.3 of Philip Backlund, just in front of him on the Ian Locker Racing Kawasaki. There they go. We've almost got... Oh, and once again, Danny Johnson, he's got that move nailed. Going down through Pilgrim's Drop and being able to get the better of Jenkinson up to Sheen Curve. So once again, back to that position where Jenkinson can't win the championship. He must get to the front.
Yeah, I mean, Jenkinson knows what he's got to do, but Johnson is putting a really fast pace there, is Daniel Johnson. And you can see Tristan Palmer is waiting, and look at Brown. Brown actually went up the inside of Palmer in the background, but obviously had a moment. We can see the yellow flags out there for somebody. Look at the bike sliding and squirming going into paddock, and this is such a tricky corner. He's missed the apex there. He was a bit late, but he was trying to hold his line. Jenkinson's going to have the line coming up here into Druids.
Dan Johnson, he's had a couple of 5th places finishes this year, back-to-back ones at Alton Park and Donington Park, and right now Tristan Palmer riding round him at Druids Hill Bend. Sensational move by the dry Tristan Palmer. Treacle from Nuneaton in the Midlands moves through on the Rapido Sport Racing Ducati. He is now 2nd, and Jenkinson in the lead, but 2 Ducatis looking very strong now. Palmer in 2nd place, Brown in 5th.
Yeah, and you could see Palmer was desperate. A great move around the outside there at Druids. Very difficult to do, but he had the line, more importantly, when he got to the bottom at Graham Hill. I think Palmer looks like he really is going to challenge. There you can see that is exactly what it would be. Look at that, 4 points if it stayed as it is at the moment.
Hardly guarantee that we're on the 13th of lap of 14, the penultimate lap of the whole season here in the Pirelli National Superstock 1000 Championship. That's been a year in which we've seen at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 winners, race winners. It's been a really strong series, a lot of competition in it, and at the moment Jenkinson, looking for that third victory, leads the way as they storm through clearways. But he's under threat now from number 33, that beautiful red, white and green Ducati.
Palmer's going to make a move at Paddock. He's going to pull out up the inside in here. He's getting himself set up. Look at Jenkinson, though. He moves to the inside, but here comes Palmer. And a lovely move, very neat. You could see him working for that. What's Jenkinson got?
Jenkinson needs... Oh, Palmer has a huge moment coming through Paddock Hill Bend, but that probably, as much as anything, deflated any possible move by Adam Jenkinson up Haywards Hill. The Ducati runs a bit wide. Oh, and Danny Johnson swings off track and finds that he's got Robbie Brown right with him now in 4th place.
Yeah, mistake, he got sucked in. It was because Palmer was actually so strong on the brakes coming into Druids. He missed the apex, but he lured everyone else in with him. And what a lap this is going to be.
Danny Johnson with it, I think that would be his first ever podium under threat in the National Superstock 1000 Championship. But Jenkinson, number 11, is he going to lose it at the 11th hour? This possible race win, he so needed it. 13 laps complete, he led across the line. Now he's been pushed back to 2nd place, and despite a lurid moment or two, Tristan Palmer and the Ducati lead the way.
I tell you what, though, it's not done yet. Here you can see Brown and Johnson. This is a good part of the track for Johnson, but you could see Jenkinson was also, yes. Oh, look at that, coming to Dingle down the last lap. He's made the move, he's made it stick.
And Jenkinson learned that from Dan Johnson and thought, wow, I've got to do that as well. But look, straight away, forcing his way back underneath at Sterling's, goes the Rapido Sport Racing Ducati. Neck and neck as they head towards clearways. Terrific drive for the SMT Kawasaki. He makes it stick, yes he does. Swoops across the front. They're side by side now into the Clark curve. Absolutely neck and neck. Who's going to get the drive? Jenkinson goes out in a blaze of glory with SMT Kawasaki. He wins his 3rd race victory of the season here at Brands Hatch. But I think you'll find that the number 3 Kawasaki of South African Hudson the Grub Kenner has done enough to win the championship. Kenner crosses the line in 7th place. He is the National Superstock 1000 champion after, well, an intelligently run race. Hudson Kenner there wins the championship. Kenner finally nails a national championship. He's had a 3rd place in this series before. He's been runner-up in British Super Sport, but finally he's done what he needed to do with a great late surge in the season. He is the race winner.
Well done, Hudson Kenner. I mean, he's deserved that. He used his head. I mean, Jenkinson did everything he needed to. He won the race. He pushed so hard on the last lap, but it's hats off to Hudson Kenner, his 1st ever British Championship in awful conditions. And also Daniel Johnson. Danny Johnson got 3rd, his 1st ever podium. A great result from him under enormous pressure from Brown. So well done to everyone at Four Angels Racing for that. And look
Adam
at that.
Jenkinson,
that's nice.
Congratulates Hudson
nice.
Kenner on a championship. He did all he could, the Cheshireman. He won the race, but in the end fell 4 points short in the championship.
Wow, what a race.
The results then look like this. The final race of the year. Adam Jenkinson, Tristan Palmer, Dan Johnson, and the Four Angels Racing Kawasaki. He gets his 1st podium in this series. Robbie Brown stormed through the pack to 4th place. Philip Backlund finished 5th. Josh Day 6th. Hudson Kenner in 7th place, nursing his way through the 2nd half of the race. Had secured enough points. He knew that to win the championship. Lee Jackson, build-based BMW is 8th. Steve Brogan on the Brogan Racing Kawasaki is 9th. James East IDAC Kawasaki in 10th. Ahead of Josh Wainwright on the B. Weiser Kawasaki. Joe Burns, Johnny Blackshaw, Tommy Aquino. Congratulations to the Californian on getting a couple of points in his 1st ever race in the rain. Ashley Beach off pole position on the Jones Dorling bike gets a 15th place and a point ahead of Joshie Elliott, James Egan, John McGuinness, Jonathan Lodge and Michael Booth. So the championship standings on top of the new champion look like this. Hudson Kenner. Would you believe the South African has finally done it after his resurgent late season performance on the Homer Racing Ionic Balance Link Cell Kawasaki. Adam Jenkinson finishes second for SMT Racing. Philip Backlund on the ILR Racing Kawasaki is third. Lee Jackson fourth overall ahead of Tristan Palmer, and poor Victor Cox slips from fourth to sixth due to crashing out early on the ILR Kawasaki. Tommy Aquino has a splendid run to finish in 7th place ahead of Dan Johnson in 8th, Joe Burns in 9th, and Steve Brogan, former champion, 10th. 11th for Peter Ward ahead of David Johnson and Josh Day. Luke Quigley 14th, Jimmy Storer 15th ahead of Josh Wainwright, James East, Marshall Neal, Lee Johnston and John McGuinness.